Let's focus on considerations now. Most parents, I know, prefer to have their child attend a local public school, but the typical public school, including its special education program, often does little to move a dyslexic child forward. You must always keep in mind that the availability of special education is by itself no guarantee that a child is receiving an appropriate education. In general, public schools are slow or fail to identify dyslexia, provide too little instruction, and often use unproven and incomplete programs taught by teachers who know little about the science of teaching reading. Most egregious and harmful to their students who may be dyslexic is that typically neither the administrators nor the classroom teachers have any real sense of dyslexia, a condition affecting at least 20% of their students. Still, there is something to be said for having a child remain in his local school. Public schools generally offer much more diversity than can be found in a private school setting. This diversity extends to the composition of the student body, to the possibilities for choice within the curriculum, and to the opportunities for participation in important non-academic activities such as sports, music, and art. Public schools are also free, so it's important to know that public schools can be made receptive to new ideas. They can change. Parents and teachers can use the information in the second edition of Overcoming Dyslexia, together with the report of the National Reading Panel and the What Works Clearinghouse, to bring evidence-based reading instruction to every child's classroom. The information and data are available and are beginning to be more widespread. Awareness is growing, along with the hope that such interventions will soon become a widespread reality for dyslexic readers, that teachers will come to expect success from their dyslexic students, and children will benefit enormously. Joining visionary educators in this forward-looking movement are parents who, frustrated by their experiences advocating for their child and fueled by their love for their child, have banded together to form local and state groups. Parents must be vigilant to ensure that their child is receiving the most effective reading instruction, that it is evidence-based and integrated with his other academic subjects, and that their child's strengths are not overlooked. So, what if you're thinking about changing schools? In some instances, it is in the best interests of a child to change schools. Serious consideration should be given to changing schools if you have tried a public school setting and the school has provided a special reading program and your child is still lagging behind. If the school cannot organize an effective program and your child is falling behind. If the constant battle to have the school provide promised services is adversely affecting your family. If the continual lack of understanding is taking a toll on your child in terms of his or her self-concept and desire to learn and go to school. If your child is demonstrating the onset of negative behaviors. Selecting that new school represents a critical juncture for parents. Many parents turn to independent day schools because they find the local public schools wanting. Private schools offer smaller classes and potentially more opportunity for individualization. Discipline tends to be firmer, and the students often have a greater chance of going on to a competitive college. Of course, like public schools, independent day schools vary in quality. If the administration and faculty are willing, a small private school can provide the bricks and mortar of an effective program for improving reading. Relative smallness can bring with it both flexibility in modifying the rest of the child's academic program and also a sense of intimacy in getting to know the student and in providing him with a supportive network of encouragement that extends throughout the school. In contrast to most public school settings, children in private schools are more likely to be in lockstep with one another. Such schools may often pride themselves on uniformity, which often extends to the curriculum and to reading instruction. For some of these schools, maintaining decades, if not centuries, of tradition trumps the desire for change and indeed of moving forward. The lack of student diversity in this setting most often does not serve the interests of a student with dyslexia. The opportunities for innovation, for providing different courses, and for creating special programs are often limited. However, there are private schools with quality reading programs and understanding of the needs of their students who are dyslexic. It is a parent's job to assess the climate of the school overall and in each of its programs before enrolling their child. Moreover, if a child has already been identified as having dyslexia, or if you suspect dyslexia, proper testing and evaluation should be conducted before you approach any school. A diagnosis of dyslexia pinpoints the specific nature of the problem, which in turn leads to a much deeper understanding of your child and better equips you to ask the right questions and find the best school. For the parent of a child who is dyslexic, enrolling him at an independent school often represents the belief that he will get more attention and a better education there than is possible in a public setting. Parents need to be aware that attendance at an independent school may evade the real issue, acceptance that their child is in any way different from the idealized boy or girl. What are your thoughts about parents having their dyslexic son or daughter attend a specialized school with dyslexia? Do you think the children benefit? How and in what ways?
I think there are some really good specialized schools. And I think depending on the nature of the student and the circumstances of the student, some of those specialized schools can be very valuable. I also think that for most students, non-specialized schools can work perfectly fine if the student, the teachers, the parents understand dyslexia. Understand, as I said, what it is, what it isn't, understand how to cope with it, understand how to deal with it, and help the student understand that the limitations that the student feels as an adolescent, where reading is so important, are not going to be the limitations that affect that student's life. So I think that specialized schools have an important role. I think that most students can do very well in standard schools, but only if those schools understand what they're dealing with.